Proposed after clause 12, insert the new clause printed on the Marshal's list.
I rise strongly to support the shared ownership review proposed by my noble friend Lord Young of Cookham and supported also by Baroness Watkins and Thornhill, who have added their names. Now, at committee I drew attention to the asymmetry of powers and the imbalance in negotiating strength between the landlord and tenant in the case of shared ownership. I trod carefully when I characterised the people who entered into these arrangements as financially unsophisticated, but the truth is that in their natural desire to at least own part of their home, they've signed up to a situation with the certainty of all the costs, but only the possibility of some of the uplifts if they happen. The terms of trade are stacked against them. Now, the noble Lord Young has raised several shared ownership specific issues, and I'm not going to repeat them. Each is important in its own way, and the government feels they're all independent of each other. The government wants to deal with them one at a time, rather than all together, and that's wrong. My noble friend concludes that the issues are harming, possibly irreparably, the case for shared ownership, and I agree. And I'm speaking in this debate because after committee I was contacted by a shared ownership tenant, Lucy Hassel, who heard what I had to say, and she's sitting below bar today. And I want to use her case to prove the need for a fundamental review to reinvigorate the case for a fair and reasonable shared ownership system that works for families and helps them build a stake in society. Let's break down her case to demonstrate whilst a fundamental review is needed. She spent some of money on a 99-year lease on a two-bed flat in 2005. 20 years later, it's worth a little bit less, it happens. But last year, she wanted to move, and they inquired of their RSL about the process to sell. The landlord replied, stating there were about 80 years left. In fact, they were under 80 years left. At that stage, they could have entered into a lease extension at no marriage value charge at all. The RSL manager, who I will not name, but styled herself as an advisor, did not disclose that any delay could crystallise that marriage value. That was sharp practice, and far from the social purpose that the National Housing Federation tells us is the golden thread that runs through all RSLs. Time apparently was not of the essence, when indeed it was. Quite simply, Lucy and her husband were misadvised by their landlord, who was acting as a privateer, advancing their own pecuniary interests over the interests of their tenant. Now, a year later, she inquired again about selling and was quoted £12,000 for the marriage value, plus £600 for them to confirm the cost of the leasehold extension, another £800 to cover some legal fees, obviously her own legal fees, and another £1,000 for the RICS to do an independent property value, all plus VAT, of course. Let's say £16,000 out of taxed income for a system that is only available by law to people on limited incomes. And all of this in addition to the service charges and estate charges referred to by the noble Lord Young. And I received the same pleas from members of the public. And this morning, a lady wrote to me saying if only she could give away her 50% share in her shared ownership homes for nothing, she would be satisfied. But even at zero cost, the landlord won't take it back. Why didn't the Hassels RSL write proactively to warn them of the marriage value jeopardy as the line approached? They did the reverse. And now I look at the marriage value claim of £12,000. There is a helpful gov.uk website that helps people assess what the marriage value might be, and indeed it is £11,000 to £12,000. But that's for 100% of the value, and the Hassels only have 50%. Had they been correctly advised 12 months ago, they would have owed nothing. There's a case of gross overcharging and further sharp practice. If shared ownership is to be the joint enterprise it purports to be, and Parliament intended, there should be a degree of equity in the apportionment of these charges. The basic terms of these agreements are unfair. The tenant cops the lot and the landlord gets off scot-free. That's not fair to people earning less than £80,000 a year, who are the only people who qualify for this. It's an abuse. Now, I have not pressed my social purpose amendment at report, as I did at committee, perhaps I should have done. And I'm grateful for the noble lady, the Minister, for writing me about the issues in the Hassel case. I don't blame her for the disappointing reply. She just stated the law as it is. But it proves that the law needs to change, because she explained The issue is down to the Hassels because they've chosen to move. Now, elsewhere in this bill, the government purports to support the victims of the social housing system. But the Minister's letter just perpetuates victim blaming as those people who have purchased a shared ownership home and were suckered in on unfair terms I will not repeat. We must have this review to correct the asymmetry of risk and reward, the asymmetry of market and pricing power, to constrain the RSLs acting in a predatory and pecuniary advantage with obvious conflicts of interest. We must review the cost apportionment between the landlord and tenant and ensure there's proactive information to people who have been financially unsophisticated and suckered into these basic terms. And also to ensure that the selling of 99-year leases, and I do concede that the Minister has advised us that it's 990 in future, but the marriage value is a further punch in the guts. That is the reality of the situation. Lucy says she's been left with an unsellable property and considers herself misadvised and missold. I agree. I conclude that a review is essential. Otherwise, shared ownership as a tenure is finished. And that would be a shame, for it should be part of the mix. This bill is before us. The moment to sort it out is now.
Hear, 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 hear. It's the joys of following Lord Young of Cookham and Lord Fuller. I will be less, hyperbolic, but nonetheless sincere and completely agree with what has been said. My Lords, we on the